fix your canter, fix your rhythm, fix whatever wasn't quite there. So do you fix that part first, or do you fix your own head first?
Happy Monday. As always, we're super happy to have you here with us. I'm here together with my co-partner, Lorna, co-host. How are you doing today, Lorna?
I'm great, thank you. Well, actually, that's a slight stretch of the truth because I was just moaning about the winter in the UK and how wet it is. But anyway, I am great other than the weather. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm also really, really good. Been to the vets with the horses today. Got some good news. So I'm really, really, really happy, actually. It's funny how, the horses and how they're feeling and how you're doing in the training with them, it impacts your entire life, doesn't it?
Yep. A good training and you're on cloud nine, a less than ideal training, and your world is about to end.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like I can definitely deal with winter. Throw anything my way right now. I'm on cloud nine right now.
I'll remind you of that.
Yeah, but this is a good thing because when I was on cloud nine earlier on today, Lorna is like, she's sending a voice. It's like, I hate to rain on your parade, but I'm so sick of winter. But I like you trying to share the positive energy with you. Yeah. Hopefully someone is always on cloud nine that kind of can pull the other ones up there.
That's the important part.
Yeah, cool. With us rambling on for too long, what are we going to talk about today, Lorna?
You, actually. We're going to talk about your recent experience when you went show jumping for 3 days.
Yeah, last week I went show jumping for 3 days in Pilbergen, and we had a bit of a less than ideal circumstance, let's say, in the warm up. As happens every now and again, we go out, we literally come at the fence and there's no distance there. And I thought, okay, I'm going to pull for one more. Queenie thought I'm going to take off for one less. And we literally landed in the middle of an oxer. It wasn't wild, this happened to me, but we literally landed, in the middle of it. Not as in landing on the back pole of it. Like we literally landed on top of the whole oxer. Like the standards were flying, the poles are flying. Our poor friend, she had to literally put the whole fence back up again. That kind of landing in an oxer. I'm laughing now. It wasn't funny at the time, obviously. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting because I know that this is something that a lot of people go through, and it is something that we fear. A lot of us fear happening, so we tend to ride really careful or get really tensed or get in our own way because we are so fearful of having a situation like that occurring.
I have a question then. Okay. Do you fix your horse or do you fix your head first in that situation?
Do you fix your horse or do you fix your head? Well, okay. I guess it depends what you mean. When you say fix your horse, first of all, I always make sure that my horse is fine. That is priority number.
Yeah, it's okay. So not framed like that. That's your interpretation of it. As in, fix your canter, fix your rhythm, fix whatever wasn't quite there. So do you fix that part first or do you fix your own head first?
I'd say fix your own head first. Because the first thing that happens in that situation, and this happens to me still, right? Oh my God, you're such an idiot. Why did you pull? Why did you do that? You're ruining your horse, yada, yada, yada. You're making a fool of yourself. Poor horse, blah, 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 blah. That all starts, right? And to then ride against another fence before you've had a moment to yourself to just be like, okay, that's not the task that we're going to have. Yeah, I think you're just going to be very doubtful riding to another fence like that, right? So what I did in this specific situation, I literally, first of all, I trotted a few steps, made sure my horse was fine, took a deep breath. I had to anyway, because it took quite a while for them to build up this entire fence again. And what I did was I made a conscious choice of what I was going to focus on. Because in that situation, it's so easy to keep on hanging in that judgment of you're a shitty rider and you shouldn't be. And because to add to this, right, I was about to go in to ride at 1:30. And we were running a little bit late. It was really busy in the warm-up. There was one rider after the other. And then, someone needs a vertical or it's a little bit higher. And before you know it, even though I had all the time in the world, we had no time, right? And that's why this happened from the beginning, I think, because everything just got a little bit too stressed. But yeah, so to make a long story short, once we have rebuilt this oxer again, I had 2 more riders and I had to go inside, right? So then at that moment, you're like, okay, how do I fix this? Like, what do I do now with those couple of minutes that I still have, right? I knew I obviously had to take a couple of more jumps, and I'm blessed to say I have a horse that is very forgiving. So I know that if I just create enough canter and I'm focused and there for her, she tends to get over it pretty quickly. So that's exactly what I did. Like, I took a deep breath for myself. I decided, what is it that I'm going to focus on now? And for me, there are two things that tends to work out really, really well. It's to focus on the rhythm in the hind legs of the horse, like, feel the rhythm in the hind legs, and to make sure that I'm looking not on the fence, like over focusing on the fence, but to make sure, like, steer my focus to like far behind the fence, like look up almost in the roof, like behind the fence. So those are two things that are my like go-to whenever I get into a situation like that. I feel like the straights aren't working out. I did that. I put my leg on. I created that canter. I focused on the high, like making sure I had a really powerful canter. And we took 2 more jumps and we went in and we jumped the 130.
That's super cool. So lower your expectations and sharpen your focus, essentially.
Yeah,
Like, when you start beating yourself up, there is an expectation there. Whether it's you're a shitty rider, you're letting your horse down, you've landed in the middle of the oxer, yada yada yada. Like, there is an expectation or a pressure, I guess, that at this level this shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, 100%. But I think also what also helps me is to remind myself that, okay, this has happened, but percentage-wise, and I'm a quite logical thinker, so I'm not sure this is for everyone, but for me, that this works really well. I'm like reminding myself that, okay, out of all the jumps that I've taken recently, okay, we had one where we had landed in an oxer. All the other ones have been spot on. So, these are just, in terms of numbers, if I just create that canter and I just, pull up my focus points, focus on the things that are helpful, we are unlikely to land in an oxer again. And that actually helps me also not to worry about it too much.
I think it's a cool way to look at it as well, because, and again, from personal experience, and you are the same, and I'm sure there's hundreds of other people out there, our mind by nature wants to focus on the negative as opposed to the positive. So you can have a really good training, a really successful training, but you missed 2 distances, you had a run out, you had a stop, you had something. Our mind by nature is exactly what you're saying. It's like good news, bad news. Like, our mind wants to focus on that. And it is actually hard work to get your mind to distract your mind from that all the time, because you've obviously got all the skills in your toolbox, and it's amazing, especially when you go to jump a 130, that you can get from that situation into that positive mindset and pull it out the bag. But there are lots of people and lots of clients that we chat to as well. And it's quite a sticky situation to get yourself out of, literally.
Yeah, especially when you have that little time, because it is also a time pressure, and you're like you can't. They're not going to wait for you. Like, either you go in or you don't, right?
Yeah.
But I think what this comes down to is to have a sort of like mental recovery routine for yourself, and that's not going to be like the same for everyone. But I have a very clear set of things that I go through every time I get myself into, not that particular, that was actually a long time ago since I was in a situation, but when something just doesn't go the way you had planned in the warm-up, maybe. I mean, sometimes you have those, even if you don't land in an oxer, you sometimes have those warm-ups where you seemingly can't get a stride to work out. It just doesn't, like, of some reason. And then it's also important to be able to take a step back, maybe walk for a little bit, walk 1 lap, and be like, okay, check in with yourself. Like, what am I focusing on right now? What am I thinking about? Where is my focus lying? What is one little thing that I can change? If this is the result that I'm getting right now, what is one little thing that I can change in order to get a different result? And that can be anything from, turning a little bit earlier towards the fence, maybe turning a little bit later towards the fence, look somewhere different, focus on a different element in your riding, up your canter, sit a little bit different. There's so many things that you can switch up, but choose one element and do something slightly different.
I think it's a really cool point, because, as we always say, that cool quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I think when our mind is under pressure, like, our working memory is so much smaller, so it can hold so much less information. So I always say to people, give yourself 2 goals and that's it. And even when it goes to shit and it feels horrendous, just give yourself those 2 things to focus on. And if you pull those out the bag, we're successful. Can it be better? Of course it can be better. But if we just stick to those 2 things, and generally it works out, because our mind has a job to do as opposed to gone off into that story thinking. And I quite often refer to it now as red brain, blue brain. Red brain's the judgmental part, blue brain is the part that has the strategy. Like, it does the planning. So blue brain is always there. Red brain just sometimes it takes over. And that's, when we get into those real fight or flight moments where we panic essentially. But if we just, exactly what you did, you give yourself that space to breathe and pause, which allows blue brain essentially to come up with a plan for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said there about like giving yourself a job to do. That was something I had written down as well. Like, give yourself a job to do. And there, and that it sounds very complicated, but we talk about simple things because, like you say, when you're in that emotional state, it's can sometimes be challenging. You don't want to be doing a math equation at that time. Like, give yourself something very simple to do. Like I just mentioned, focus on the hind legs and the rhythm in the hind legs, or look for the marketing board. Like, just steer where you're looking. But those are jobs that you're giving yourself to do. Feel the canter. Like with my other horse, something that works really well for him is he can get very like chopped up and very like jumping, like cantering up and down kind of thing. Like he will get like, I don't know how to say it in English, but like he will just literally start jumping up and down in his canter before a jump. It's very hard to, ride any kind of distance towards a fence. So something that works out really well with him is that when I sense that he starts doing that, I just focus on getting like feeling his canter and getting his strides a little bit longer. Like I just literally feel his canter, like be with him, feel his body, feel what happens in his body. And thereby I give myself a job to do, which means that you can't really worry about that past stride that you might not have worked out or all those things, because your brain can literally just focus on one thing at the same time.
And how did you get from that point of having that experience? So that's obviously what you did in the warm-up. I think also the fact that you had to go in and jump, for me, that would probably work out for me because it creates a sense of urgency. You've got exactly what you say. You've got a job to do. You've got 5 minutes or 2 minutes to get yourself in there. They're not going to wait for you. So this is a kind of, come on, let's get on with it moment. How, what was your focus or what was your process once you then did get in the ring?
What works for me very well is just reminding myself I've done this so many times.
Yeah,
I've done this so many times. Like whether it's and also I remind myself that this horse can jump houses. Like for her, it's not an issue. I remind myself that this horse can jump out of any distance. Like anything like that kind of settles my mind and makes it. Because here's the thing, it's easy at that moment, for me at least, to get caught up in the distances, because it was because the lack of a distance that I landed in the middle of the oxer.
Yeah.
So what will I start worrying about at that point in time?
You can't see. Yeah. But I think that's everyone. Like that's a normal human response. It's our brain is there for safety. If you can't see one, it's not suddenly gonna, after you've landed in the middle of something, say, hey, never mind, just keep coming.
Yeah. So I think, I just have that short conversation with myself. And even if you don't have a long time, for me, my brain is quite logical. So I always want to be, so if my brain says, you might land in an oxer because you can't see the stride, then immediately I want to feed my brain with 3 reasons why that's bullshit. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter because this horse can jump out of any distance. I've jumped millions of rounds and they have had 90% good distances. So it's nothing really to worry about. And the third, like I just said, this horse can jump houses. So even if she gets a little bit close or she gets a little bit from far, she can still jump over 130. Those are immediately 3 counter arguments, which makes it easy for me to logically switch it in my brain that actually it's not that big of a deal. And then actually the fourth thing, what is going to give me the biggest chances of getting around here? Yeah, it's to focus on my focus points, being my canter and, my outside shoulder and looking for my lines. Not by focusing and worrying about the fact that I might not be able to see a distance. No, it's by trusting myself, trusting my skill set, and focusing on my focus points.
And if you had the same experience, let's say next week, so the same short warm up, you ran out of time, horses in your way, all that kind of stuff. What did you learn? What would you do differently again?
You mean in terms of the mental? Like how
say you had exactly the same scenario again. Okay, you ran out of time, horses are in your way, you didn't get to jump the fences. How would you plan it a little bit better? Because we're all about learning from, I'm not saying it was a mistake in any way, but we're all about learning how to get better.
I mean in general?
In general. Like
what do you situation happens from the first.
Yeah. What do you take from that experience?
Yeah, definitely. And this is so useful when you go away and jump for a couple of days, right? So we were away for jumping 3 days in a row. And that's what I love about doing that you can immediately put that lesson into so this was on day 2 and I still had day 3 to jump, right? So immediately did that with myself. I was like, okay, I don't want to be in this situation again. So obviously the simple answer was create more time. Like start earlier, get on your horse earlier, and not only get on your horse earlier, start jumping earlier. Like, don't wait until you have just like, because to be fair, I was there well on time. I just started jumping too late. I was too optimistic with how quickly we were going to get through the fences. And then, it might have been working out if it wouldn't been because someone came and asked for a vertical and then someone else's horse was being a bit tricky. And it's so fast. So yeah, that was the biggest thing. Just more time.
I think we can all take something, because I didn't land in anything at Osberton, but it was the same thing. It was a 3-day and you showed up on the last day and he came out strong and a bit like a bull and was really tricky to warm up. I couldn't really hold one side of him. I ran out of time. I was there in time, but I ran out of time. Same sort of thing. I should have got on earlier. I should have schooled a bit more. Not should have, because that's a pressure word, but ideally I would have done that. And then when I got in the ring, I didn't have control outside, so there was no danger I was going to have control when I went inside. And yes, it all felt like a disaster at the time. Like, I hold my hands up, it did. But in hindsight, we need to warm up for longer. Even if it's just doing a bit of flat work and having a break and doing a bit of flat work and having a break. But like, they have to listen enough that when you start jumping, they're kind of on the same page as you.
Yeah, and I think more than anything also, it's you and your horse and your plan. So I think it's also very easy to be, especially when you're away and you're like, oh, but they are just getting on their horse 20 minutes before, so why would I need to get on 40 minutes in advance? But I think that is very important to remember also. It's you, your horse. You know your horse better than anyone, so you make your plan of when you're going to get on. You make the plan when you are going to start jumping, and you tell the people who are there to help you, I want you to be there then, because and even if they, oh, but you have so long, doesn't matter. It's you, your horse, your plan.
There's that good old bit of imposter syndrome and people pleasing that shows up, though, because you're right. And if you go by yourself, you have your plan and you stick to your plan. And then it just takes somebody, I'm not saying necessarily professional, but trainers who are, warm the horses up in 20 minutes and do the most beautiful job and they're supple and moving around. And you're like, yeah, well, if they can do it, then I can do that. But actually, nothing is the same. You don't have the same horses. You're not the same people. Your mind doesn't work in the same way. You're never going to be that person. So actually, put aside that imposter syndrome, put aside that people pleasing, and actually be brave enough to actually stick to your own plan.
It's funny that you'd mentioned that, actually. First time I'm thinking about this, because I almost feel like now you mention it, it's almost a bit of a glory in like, I can warm my horse in just 10 minutes. Like I could do 2 horses in a class with just 30 riders. I don't know, but that's like, it's almost a bit like, oh, you're cool if you can do that kind of thing. But yeah, what kind of bullshit is that? Like every horse, and my horses in that sense are also very different. I know Echo, I can warm up quite fast. Like he doesn't need much riding. Queenie, on the other hand, she needs decent riding before. Like, and if I start jumping her too early, then she won't jump as well, right? It will take her like maybe a little bit longer to get warm, and she jumps at her best when she's really properly warmed up. And I do like literal dressage movements and stuff with her in the warm up before. And that was probably, now in hindsight, why I started jumping too late, because I was so busy properly warming her up. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to talk about those things. And sometimes it's, I think it's sometimes we just put a different spin on it or a different view on it or whatever. And then you have those little aha moments where you're like, oh, I wonder if that really did happen. Like, I wonder if that's true. If somebody out there is listening to this right now who's had a disaster, let's call it, it was far from a disaster, but that's a word that gets chucked around a lot and is about, was about to go in and warm up around, or it didn't work or whatever. What advice would you give them right now? What do they need to hear right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, first of all, and I say this a lot, you're not alone, right? I'm jumping 130s, 135s, I'm jumping 3 stars. And I also landed in an oxer, right? So forget any illusion, because this is what I used to think. I can't jump at 120 because I don't always see my strides. Yeah. I'll hold all my hands up and say, I also don't always see my strides. Gets better the more I jump and the more mental work I do. But but the other thing is, have this mental recovery routine for yourself. Like when it goes to shit, well, it doesn't actually, before even it goes to shit, right? In the situations where you noted that you are stressed, or there's someone there whose opinion that you care about, like any situation that is sort of like has the tendency to put pressure on yourself, making a like mistake in the warm up, have a strategy for yourself.
Yeah.
Have a strategy. And I've done so much of this, so I know I don't even reflect on those things anymore. They just, like, when it goes to shit, my brain already goes, okay, logically, I reason myself through it, and I start to focus on my focus points. Like, it's become so much second nature for me. But make that plan for yourself. When you get into that pressured situation, or something goes wrong, or someone all of a sudden shows up, what are you going to do? Like, how? Because here's the thing, not like trying not to focus on the distance, or trying not to
Yeah.
focus on the person that's standing on the side doesn't work.
Doesn't.
Like, it doesn't. So have a plan for yourself of what you are going to focus on.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love what you said about, at the end of the day, we're human. We're not all riding 10 or 20 horses a day. Like, we are going to miss, like, that is fact. But I think, it's when you started this, a good day, bad day. It's funny how a good day lifts you up, and, a bad day is the end of the world. We have a choice in this. We can learn from the times that we miss. Of course we do. But, we don't have that volume of horses. So that is the fact. Like, I always say that is nature. Like, we are going to miss that. That's a fact. And if that is the main thing you're worried about, essentially we start manifesting that into our own subconscious mind, that, it's a disaster when you miss a distance. Well, that's why our mind then chooses to make a disaster out of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and here's the thing, like, even the people riding 10 horses a day, they also make those mistakes. They also come across those things. You might not see them as often. Like, here's the thing.
I think it's as often is probably the thing. It is.
Yeah.
You probably see it less often because they have more practice. They have more horses to ride.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think also people don't talk about it. Like, we've done a lot of this, and I like to be honest and open about those kind of things. But in all honesty, if I wouldn't have spoken up about this on this podcast, only the couple of people that were in that warm-up would have known.
Yeah.
No one else would have known.
Yeah.
Right? So people will be seeing my runs on Instagram, and they'll be like, oh, she jumped to 135 and she was fifth in that jump up, and yada, yada, yada. No one will know that I crashed in an oxer in the warm-up, right? So people will think that doesn't happen to me. And the only reason why people will now know is because I'm talking about it, right? So it's also important to know that it's not because you don't know that it happened, or it's not on Instagram, or people don't talk about it, that it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
it happens
100%.
to everyone.
100%. I actually, I'm going to post a reel about this later, but I bought my cross-country video, my fast cross-country video from last year. And there was a fence where he absolutely chipped on in, like he didn't take off. And I never thought about it. But, when you go back and you view things in a bit more detail, and there was a lady stood next to the fence. And she put her hands over her eyes, and she kind of lifted her leg up when he chipped on in. And then your brain starts to make all this shitty meaning out of it. Like, I really had to stop myself. I'm like, oh God, she thinks that was dangerous, and she thinks you were going too fast, and oh my God, you were lucky to get away with that. Like, holy moly. And then I'm like, no, like, I actually said it to my trainer. She's like, yeah, cross country is a partnership. Like, they should be able to help you out when you screw it up. And it wasn't a screw up. It was just not on the distance that ideally I would have liked. It was half one. But our brain it's mental. Like, it distorts so much information to fit in with our own map of the world. So in my own map of the world, it's like, well, that's dangerous riding. Like, that's not on, which is not true, but it's instantly how you run that through that filter. And then all of a sudden, if you've done no work on yourself, that's your belief. And that is how it really starts to screw with your mind, essentially.
Yeah, it's so funny you'd mentioned. Sorry, now we're going in a bit of a short, but just because you're mentioning dangerous riding, this is so funny, right? So the day after this oxer incident happened, right? The day after, I was jumping at 125. I was gonna jump to 135, but I decided, seeing this had happened, like, I was like, let's just ride at 125, and bearing the horse heart in mind as well. She was really good. But then I was like, oh, since I'm riding at 125, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to ride like a proper jump off kind of with the result of my horse getting a little bit too enthusiastic. And I literally didn't have a choice of like going for one more stride. It was just one less in every single line. And they go faster. And I remember I came coming out of this round, and my friends were like, awesome, like you're third on the leaderboard, like so good, and like what a comeback, and this and that. And my first comment was, oh no, I'm embarrassed of that. That was dangerous riding. Like, that was embarrassing. And it's so, and they were like, what are you talking about? Like, that was so good. And yeah, okay, you had a big like distance on the last fence, but like it was an awesome jump off. it's so funny, like you say, we're making up that story of like, ooh, that's dangerous riding, or what will people think?
Yeah.
Well, it's all complete bullshit because they totally hadn't seen the run and thought about it that way.
I think it's true, and maybe this is something we talk about in the next podcast. It is bullshit, but it actually, like, it genuinely fits into your map of the world. Like, your mind distorts all this information to actually fit in. So, yes, it is bullshit, but there is actually a bit of reality. You know, there's a reason that it's in there. Like, it's your belief system and all those kind of things. So that might be something quite cool to dig into in the next one. Actually, how you make information fit in with the. And we do it without thinking. It happens as quick as. And I really had to catch myself at it the other day. I'm like, whoa, let's just stop this.
100%. Yeah, good. We will dive into that into a future podcast, and we will also dive into the topics that you want us to dive into. So do send us messages on Instagram, drop comments on our brand new YouTube channel. And actually, Lorna, talking about that, we almost forgot to mention our YouTube launch competition that we have running. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and you tick in your details, then we will be able to send someone a free coaching call. Well, you'll be entered into the draw of a free coaching call anyway. So if you haven't already, do make sure you go to the show notes. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and also register your name and email address via the link in the show notes to make sure that we have your contact details so we can contact you if you have one. All info in the show notes. I believe it's mindig.eu/YouTube launch if you want to go straight. But the easiest way is to just go to the show notes. Anything else, Lorna?
I know. I would just say if anybody is listening to this episode or watching this episode, we can say that now. Please, if it resonates with you, if you feel like you're struggling with this by yourself, please reach out, send us a DM, and we're more than happy to help anyone.
Yeah, and actually, maybe you have a friend as well that is having a similar challenge or that has gone through something similar like this, and you think that it would be helpful to them. Do send them to them as well.
Or if you're both having the same challenge, we also do body up coaching where you and your friends can do coaching together. We cover all bases.
We cover all bases. All you need to do is we'll get you sorted. That's for sure. Right. On that note, we're going to challenge you to start making strides in your mindset so you can truly make strides in your riding. And we will see you on the next Magical Monday.
Bye.